Okay, so here's what you'll need. You'll need pencils. I'm using Derwent pencils. There's a medium, a hard and a dark, which really is just the same as a hard and a soft, that kind of thing. You'll need a piece of paper, just bog standard A3 paper, some pieces of kitchen towel, just for rubbing in the graphite into the paper, and things like a sharpener, and quite important, a kneadable eraser. Not a rubber one, but kneadable. Whole idea of this thing is that it's flexible, stretchy, and you can shape it to different edges, chisel edge, or you can make a point, and excellent for lifting graphite off the paper, but it won't damage the paper, which is pretty important. The whole idea is we're going to put graphite on the paper, rub it in, and that will be a mid-tone. Then we'll put dark marks for shadows, and we'll erase the graphite to make highlights to go back to white paper. So what you can use is something like a stick of graphite, and we scrape that onto the paper, rub it in, or if you don't have a stick of graphite, you can get your pencil and then just scrape the graphite onto the page, and that'll do the same thing. So you may need some sort of craft knife. So what we're going to do is this. Whole idea of doing a kind of skull first is that it's easier to draw than anything else, because you can screw up one part and it's not going to completely mess up, unless you make the whole thing completely crazy and end up looking like a duck. You can't really go wrong. The whole idea is we'll start off mid-tone, and then we'll do a sketch starting with the eye and then filling in the other parts. And as long as you get the first part right, then pretty much the rest of it should be fine. So we'll start putting the mid-tone on the page. So I'm going to use this little stick of graphite. Dead simple. What you're going to do is just scrape that onto the page. Again, if you wanted to, you could use a pencil. So rather than using this, you could in theory just get your pencil. It's the exact same idea. Same thing. Then with a bit of kitchen paper, we're just going to kind of fold it up a bit. Then quite important is that you go in circles, small circles. If you go in lines, horizontally or vertical or diagonal, you'll just put big streaks across the paper and they won't come off. So you're better to do little circles like this. Start off kind of light, not too heavy, and just start doing circles like that. Now, as the graphite starts to run low in the paper, you can keep going around the edges, and eventually it will fade out, and it will fade pretty much back to your white paper again. And you keep going in circles, and you'll get something like that. Now, as I say, the whole idea being we're going to put darker marks on it. If we want a lighter mark, then rather than use a white pencil or something, what we'll be doing is erasing, so that you get back to white again. And I can just cover that up again by rubbing it in. But anyway, I'm probably going to make it a bit darker than that, because we want to make sure that there's a good difference between mid-tone, dark and light. So I'll make it a bit darker. Alright, so just again, little circles. And that should pretty much do it for a mid-tone, I hope. So, we'll go with that. Okay, we've got our paper, it's ready to go. We're going to have to sketch this onto our paper. First thing I'm probably going to start with is not so much the eye socket, but the part in front. But I don't want that dead centre on the page like that. So I don't want this shape dead centre. I want it slightly above centre. That means that the finished skull will sit roughly like that on our page. So I'm going to try and do this first, and main thing to notice is nothing is a square or a circle or a triangle. It's got, you know, angles, curves, and you've got to draw these things. So don't just put a square or an oval or a triangle. That's okay to start off with, but we really need this shape done first and done right, so that everything else will be drawn compared to this. So we want to do this one first. So I'm going to start it around about here and make it come round about here. Then it comes down this way, across that way, down here, and I'm just kind of looking at the proportions of this to see how wide it is and how tall it is. It is pretty much as wide as it is tall, so I need to kind of take that into account when I'm drawing it. So that is pretty much that shape. Now I'm going to draw it a bit darker than you should, so that you'll be able to see it on the camera. But, you know, try and make yours a bit lighter. So that's what I've got there. I'm then going to try and draw this bit inside it. And again, I'm not thinking about what's behind the skull, or that is the equivalent of this. I'm not thinking about that. I just want to draw that shape that looks like a black bar. That's all. So I just want to draw a shape that looks something like that. Then it comes across here like that. Now that's in shadow, so I'm just going to put a bit of pencil on there just so that I know that that is that. The next bit I'll go for is this part here in front. It would probably help if I actually knew dinosaur anatomy and knew all the names, but I don't. So let's go for this. And again, there's a bit out of there. and that bit's in shadow. Then I'm going to go for this bit here, which is the actual eye socket. I'm going to put in this bit here just to keep me right, so that I know where I am on the page compared to the picture. It seems as if it goes in a bit. And then again, this shadow bit here I'll put in. Like that, so I've got these three parts in. Next bit, I think I'll do some of the top bit, and again I'm looking at the distance between here and say here, and if I've got that right, then I can get that bit right. And if you think of it almost as being something like a crossword, that you don't put anything in until you've got something else to compare it to, and if you're pretty sure you've got that right, then you can put your other bits in. That seems to come across that way. And get this bit here, and that comes across to just above where the nostril, not nostril, this triangular piece here is, that's the nostril. Comes to about there, roughly, and that comes up to here, and then I don't know how far the nostril is out yet, so I'll come back to that. What I'll do is I'll put in this kind of crease, because that will let me see where I'm getting to. So I've got that. I think I'll do this bit next. So I've got this kind of area done. Again, shade that bit in. I'm going to go with this bit up here, because I know it comes off of here. I know there's a bit comes across there, goes down that way, so that comes up across there. I need to go a bit more. That goes that way. That is in line with this line here, so I need to keep that in line with that. That's pretty much in shadow. It's going to come down here. This part of comes across there. This bit comes down here, across to there. Then I'll go for this part up here. Then I'll just put kind of suggestion of something there, kind of fading out at this side. Back to here again. Then come down this way, I'll do this bit. That means I can then start working across here. Now, I'm looking at this bit, I'm thinking maybe coming this way, because I know that distance, I'll be able to get that, then come across to meet this area. So, I'm thinking about here, then it will come down, this area, this piece here, I can put that in. With this piece here, so then I can put in that piece coming across, and hopefully that'll be right. So that's what I've got so far. Now, I'm going to have to put the nostril in, so I'm thinking it comes out to it here because there's a kind of mark indentation goes across there and down here. So I've got one there, I'll put that one going across there, so the nostril must be starting about there. And the nostril is not quite as wide as the eye socket, so I don't want to make it that big, so I want to make the nostril maybe from there to about that size maybe. So put the nostril in about that size roughly, just to see how that looks. Should be okay, seems not bad. Then we need to get this curve, so I need to make sure that this is in line roughly with the middle of the eye socket. So I need to make sure that comes to about there roughly. Then put in the arc shape here, and then there'll be bits and pieces of shadow that we'll put in. You can put those in. Next I think I'll go from here this way, kind of S curve. Now the size from here to here at this point is probably about the same size as that eye socket. So this piece from here has got to be, you know, kind of this size. So if I come down that way, I know I'm on roughly the right track. This piece here ends up just off the nostril area, so need to keep going until round about there. Then I'll do the bottom of the jaw. This crack here is below where this V part is, so I'm going to go for that just so that I can get down to here. So put in that kind of crack indentation thing. So probably need to bring that down a bit, because that kind of goes up to here, and it comes around like that. Now I'm going to bring this side to meet this end, So I'm going to go this way. This part here is pretty much in line with halfway down that slope. So if I go kind of here, so that's not bad. Bring that in. Halfway here, or between this part we're coming down, between there we're coming down, so here we bring this part down to meet this part, roughly about there. So most of the skeleton is now in place. I'll do this back piece, which is mostly our shadow. Again, it's below where that kind of circular part is, starts there, comes down here, and then it's mostly teeth. So most of that's going to be a shadow. Right, so next part is mainly drawing in teeth. I'll just put in a couple of wee indentation parts there. Teeth, right, so start with this one here. This tooth is coming up above this other side of the line. There's a tooth there. There's one there. That one kind of curves in a bit. Back to this one. That one just looks a giant tooth for some reason. That one seems to be a little small tooth. I've never really noticed that some of the teeth are actually kind of shaped like a shark fin. Little tooth there. There, there, this one here, one there roughly, roughly one about there. Again, we're not going for absolute scientific realism, so I mean it's just a sketch, study if you like. We don't have to go for absolute perfection here. Get one in there, there, and there. That'll do it. And there. There, and then these ones are just kind of covered up really. So that is pretty much the full skeleton. Full skull. Obviously we'll have to shade some of the teeth, you know, but that is pretty much the drawing done. Next thing we're going to do is, we've got basic shadows there, but before we do shadows I prefer to do the highlights. So what we'll do is, next piece we'll use the kneadable eraser and we'll erase nice highlights, and you'll start to see it taking shape once you do the highlights. Then we'll put in some of the darkest parts and at that point, once you've done the darkest parts and you've erased the highlights, it's 90% done, and after that we'll just blend in some of the kind of mid-tones, bits and bobs, and do some of the kind of between absolute highlight and the mid-tone. You can do you kind of in between just to kind of blend things, and that'll be it done. So hopefully it shouldn't take long.